Yo guys, Gluten-Free EDC here. I'm Brian, your gluten-sensitive representative. Today I have a very special knife I want to share for you. This is the one that started it all for me, guys. This is my first custom knife. If you can't tell from the slip, the knife, the sweet coin that I got a little further into the game, this is a David Lespect folder. I pronounce it that way because he is from France. He's been making knives since 2005. The dude is a master at the game. He's just a master knife maker. He's done fixed blades. He's done all sorts of types of folding knives. He's done a few rear flippers. He's done, I believe, a thumb stud here and there. But for the most part, what he's been doing is front flippers. And since 2005, guys. So he's really been in the game a long time, perfecting what he does. Now this first one I got is a bit of an older one. I'm not sure of when this one was made. I reached out to David. He wasn't quite certain either. I'd have to best guess around 2018. So some key notes about this. This is going to be a small details overview of the knife. For this one in particular, so we have ironwood. The reds and caramel colors are hard to capture on camera. I tried messing with the lighting, couldn't quite capture it the way I wanted to, but suffice to say, there's a lot of reds and caramel colors, oranges, even yellows that are going on in here. In the daylight, there's even that shimmer to it. It's beautiful. Now, what some people may not know about ironwood specifically is that it will darken over time. Ironwood is an interesting material in that you don't need to treat it, so there's no need to pressure treat it with any chemicals or anything. It's such a dense wood that the oils that are in it will keep it good seemingly, I don't want to say forever, but a long time. It's so dense, in fact, ironwood is one of the few woods that does not float. Just to put into perspective, this isn't your typical wood that you're going to get. Now, what's really neat about this knife, aside from the scale material, is this blade. David does a few clip point blades here and there. For the most part, he's going to be doing more of a sheep's foot style blade. But what he always typically has is this harpoon shape right here. A place for your thumb to sit. And yeah, usually it'll slope down more like a sheep's foot blade. But this clip point is a little more rare. More rare as well is the fuller that he's added. A gorgeous fuller on this blade. You can see it's on either side. Really nice. Now, David is typically going to be putting a flat grind on his blades. I have not seen them with a hollow grind, but that's not something I've confirmed. I've handled a good few Lespects, and each one has always had the flat grind though. So I suspect that's primarily what he's doing. Maybe he's got a few hollows out there or something else. At the top, you'll see this great swedge coming down all the way almost to the tip of the blade. You can see we get pretty thin in stock, really tight. Oh, I'm losing focus. It's a really tight tip. Anyway, so yeah, it's really nice. You're definitely not going to want to pry with that. And let's be real, David Lespect, to me, each one is a grail. I consider each of these a work of art. More to that, real quick, every single David Lespect folder is a one of a kind. He starts working on the blade, starts working on the handle, kind of just does some rough sketches and lets the artist in him come out and produce a knife. He has no models, therefore no model names. He really makes a knife. So there's always a general aesthetic. Like I said, he's got the harpoon, he's got the flat grind. Oftentimes the handle is very, very notably ergonomic in that it has similar ergonomic lines. So this one you can see is a hard transition. So you go from here and a hard transition down, right? So a lot of people will look at the knife like this. I tend to look at it like this, where the blade is perpendicular to the floor more or less. And you can see here it runs in that straight line and then dramatically curves down beautifully. This knife in hand, because of that, really transitions from palm to thumb, but also fills your palm very, very well. On this particular one, he has two choils, right? So one works into the blade. That is sharp on the edge there. So you can cut yourself. I know because I have done so when I first got the knife. And then you got this curve here. He beautifully mills this out. It's very soft to the touch so that your fingers can wrap around and really lock in. Great indexing points. He typically does a single choil now in his newer knives, but every once in a while he'll put out one with two, and yeah, they're amazing. One of the most notable things for me about a David Lespect folder is the ergonomics. All those lines match up to just be this amazing knife. This one in particular, I'll share with friends, kind of put it in their hands and say, like, what do you think of this guy? And right away, they open it up, they see the blade, that's badass. But then right after that, they go, this feels like it was made for my hand. It fits like a glove. Now, I have a smaller hand. I wear a medium-sized glove, but I'm on the smaller side. I've handed this to people that wear a large-sized glove, an extra-large glove, and everything from small to large. Everyone thinks that this knife just fits perfect. It just kind of just falls into place. It's really, really something else. A bit back to the scales again. So I do want to note, there is typically always going to be a backspacer, and he does not quite a full backspacer, but almost. And it's scalloped out, so it's concave. It's really, really cool. So if you can see, I'm going to try and get this best I can. There you go. So it's concave here. And then you can see where it kind of stops. And it goes convex right there, right? So then it matches up. Beautifully done. The titanium liners are gorgeous. Beautifully finished. He finished the hardware to not quite a darkened tie like black, but almost like a bronze hardware that more goes with the aesthetic of the knife, kind of giving it that antique vibe. And I love that. Along with that, he did an acid wash blade. That really matches the hardware. So that's a really nice tie-in that you can see there. He acid stonewashed the blade. It's amazing. Now what he does, I believe it's referred to as a convex edge. So it's very, very thin. Very thin. The edge on his knives are super thin. They're super slicey. I've used this knife. I've carried this knife. Super slicey. It's just a dream to use. We'll go up here. So along with resting your thumb up there, there is this jimping. Now, he does different jimping, more along the lines of what you would typically see with like the tight pattern. I'm gonna bring in this adds in real quick. So he does something a little more akin to this. I think a little less of this sharpness going on, a little tighter. But for this one in particular, it's really cool. So it looks like the jimping almost melts into the knife, where you don't need them quite as much, but they're there, providing slight traction, but that beautiful aesthetic. Then each one is so sharp, it almost seems like he filed into each one on either side. So you could see, ever so slightly, they're fairly sharp, but these are shallow. So it's a sharp jimp, but shallow. There's even one up top right here. You can see right there. And all together, this jimping is amazing. It's got to be probably my favorite jimping I've experienced on a knife. It's very unique. He's doing this all by hand. And that should be something I should note right away. I should have said at the beginning. Every bit of this knife is done by hand. All of it. So he's doing it all. Pretty wild. He even goes as far for his Damascus. He forges his own Damascus. The dude can do it all, truly. Now, I'm not going to take this one apart, but what you are looking at is this is running on ceramic bearings. They are steel cages and a ceramic detent. Typically, he has a thin or a softer detent, but he manages a very snappy detent still. So although it's light, very snappy. What's really cool about this one in particular, because of that fuller, you get nice purchase. You can slow roll it out with your thumb. One of the other hallmarks of his knives is that fall shut. So there's the slow roll out with your thumb. There's the typical front flipper where you kind of take the meat of your thumb on the side and flip it open. And I just want to do that one more time so you can hear. It just whacks out. It's insane. Just feels good when it comes out. Oh my goodness. Sometimes I hear what I said in my head after I said it. So you have the thumb here. You have the slow roll. You have the index finger on the side. You get over it nice and simple and easy. It's effortless. Then you have over the top, you have that with your index finger again. And then the creme de la creme, a great aspect of this knife, is that fuller again. So you can thumb flick it open. Ooh, there it is. And the best part is the middle finger flick. I mean, come on. Now, I don't really have the longest nails at the moment, but yeah, you get such good purchase into that with the fuller. Not the intended reason it was added, actually. I believe it was more added for the use case because a clip point knife you would typically use when hunting, and to have a blood fuller would be useful potentially. It's also, I'm sure, added for the aesthetic choice because it looks badass. Look at these knives. They're just the reason I'm drawn to them is that he just makes a badass knife. If we go over to the lockup, you see damn near full engagement of that lock bar. No lock bar insert, no lock stick, no nothing. The lock geometry is just perfect. So good. I'm putting pressure, pretty hard pressure, nothing. And just delightful action. That middle finger flick is, man, guys, I'm telling you, if you can afford a David Lespect folder, man, oh man, you can't go wrong. You get some cool materials. He's working with wood, micarta, flips that around, awesome steels. Oh, and to mention, the steel is RWL 34. That's typically the steel he's going to use across the board. I have seen him use other steels, much like any other custom knife maker, but for the most part, he is using RWL 34, which is essentially CPM 154 for the US folks. It's Rob Lovelace, I believe, is the guy who invented the steel, or the steel was named after, rather, and it's amazing. It's fairly stainless. It's able to be strapped up super easily, so it's easy to maintain. Good edge retention, hardness. It's an all-around awesome steel. Really, really cool. So, yeah, what else can I say about this knife other than that it's magical? This one really started it all for me. So this is my first custom knife. It's crazy to me that I was able to obtain this knife and bring it to the US. I'm so happy to have done so. I would never change that aspect of my knife collecting. This knife has a lot of sentimental value to me. He does do what I believe is like an upside down DL, so lowercase d and L for David Lespect. Much like the slip that you see here, the slips that he does. So he has someone that he uses in France to hand make a leather slip. And let me tell you, they work so well. So throw the knife in. These can fold down for easy access. Don't really need to. What I usually do is I just pull from here. It's decent enough retention for what you need for a slip like this, but this one can fall out. It's an older knife. I've thrown this in pocket a million times, so it's definitely seen its use. But yeah, there's the logo, and I do want to show this coin off. I'm gonna open this up to have as a really badass backdrop. This wild coin, it's super heavy. I actually got this. So yeah, you can see the logo is properly the upside down D, or the backwards D and L, I believe is what that's supposed to be. So you can see French knife maker since 2005, David Lespect. Just like cool knife, actually in his style. Cool hammer, since he is doing a lot of like forging and whatnot. It's just badass. You got a spider and spider web. The skull obviously is the centerpiece. It's just, this was cool. It's a huge thick coin. I believe this was made by hand. It says down here that, I believe that's in French, but yeah, this whole thing was made by hand even, so pretty cool. That's why I wanted to share that. I actually got that by winning one of his auctions at Blade Show 2022 in Atlanta, Georgia, where I actually got to meet him and kind of fan out a little bit. And the dude is so nice, guys. David is just down to earth. He's not full of himself at all. He's confident in his knife making and just an all-around genuine dude. I think that's something really, really nice to know. You know, a lot of people that I met at Blade Show were really nice and genuine. David, though, you know, focus on for this video, he's just a really, really genuinely nice dude. I've enjoyed communicating back and forth with him here and there. He is on Instagram. Check him out, David Lespect Knives. and I'll try to include that in the pinned comment and description. But yeah, he's got that. He's got a Facebook group, and he's also got a website. A lot of his knives are going to be through lottery. So all his knives at Blade Show, at least the past year and the past 2 years that I know of, they're all lottery with, the 1 or 2 auction knives that he has. And he doesn't do any first come first serve. The reason when I asked him why was he doesn't want people to have to wait for his knives. He doesn't want them to have to stand in line and wait. I think that's really wholesome to hear. He wants everyone to have the same shot no matter when you actually get to the show. So he understands that people have families. He himself has a family. I know they love their football. For us American folk, soccer. So David's really, really big into playing himself. And yeah, so David is just genuine, awesome dude making genuinely badass knives, guys. You can't go wrong with a David Lespect knife. I mean, if you've tried a front flipper, cool. Like, you've tried a front flipper. This is a level of perfection. And the fact that it's one of a kind is really nice, too. Something about a custom knife. So when I got this one, I realized something about a custom knife, it gives it a bit of soul. Now, I love my production knives. Don't get me wrong. I still love them. I still love my budget knives under $100. Still love them. The thing that the customs are bringing to the table is that bit of soul. So this being my first custom, that's where I kind of learned it had something special. It had some sort of X factor. And I think what it is that soul, that time and energy, that the blood, sweat, and tears that the maker is pouring into this knife. It shows, and you can feel it almost. And David's work is no exception. If anything, it's a work of art. Functional art, right? You hear that term a lot with the custom knives. And I know this is a bit of gushing, and I kind of wanted it to be that way, guys. I love his work. When I give this knife to anyone, they immediately understand. Yep, that's super nice. Maybe it's not for them, priced out of paradise type deal. It's an expensive knife. His table cost? Not bad at all. He's charging around $1,000 US for his knives. Maybe a couple hundred more depending on the materials. On the secondary, however, which is where I've picked up all of mine almost, except the one I won at auction, yeah, they're a lot more. They're a lot more. So this is kind of a bit of unobtainium for a lot of people. But I figure it's worth sharing. It's cool to see. I plan on kind of taking you through my collection a knife at a time. And I have 5 David Lespect folders at the moment. I've owned more. They're my favorite. They're kind of what I've invested my hobby into. Maybe it's stupid to some, but it's what I like. So go kick rocks or something. I'm perfectly happy to collect what I like. I really like French knives. I really like front flippers. I know front flippers are something that people really can't get behind, generally speaking. Okay, cool. It's not for you. Like, that doesn't hurt my feelings. Like, you can hate front flippers. You can despise them. That's cool. I love them. I love the multiple deployment aspect of them. The fact that I can kind of open them every which way. And then if you happen to have some means to flick it out too with middle finger flick, awesome. Middle finger flick is probably my favorite on any knife. So yeah, that is the first David Lespect folder. I have more to come. Stay tuned, guys. I'm happy to share this with you. I hope you've enjoyed. Oh, and catch you later.